Well, greetings and welcome to the Center for Contemporary Mysticism in Philadelphia. We're so glad to have you with us for this wonderful program this afternoon. I don't know where you are, but where we are, it is snowing, a beautiful snowy winter's day. So we hope that each of you are somewhere warm and cozy. So we'll enjoy this program together. We'll introduce our guest and our program in just a moment, but first I'd like to welcome new folks to our center. Our center's, I guess, going into our 8th year, and some of you have been with us, I know, from the early days, the beginning, but we always, every week, every month, have new people who find us through word of mouth or online or social media. So if you're new, we especially welcome you to the center and hope you'll feel that you're a part of the center family. I want to remind you that the center also has many other programs. Besides just our things online, we have a mindful meditation that meets weekly. We have a spiritual sharing circle that meets once a month. These are things either by Zoom or conference calls or different ways you can participate in, and there's information on those on all of our programs on our website. So our website is simply contemporarymysticism.org. Also, check out our Facebook page. We have a great Facebook page, and we just recently started an Instagram page. I didn't know much about Instagram, but one of our board members said that we should definitely have an Instagram page. So it's new. There's not a lot on there yet, but we'll be adding pictures as we have speakers and meetings coming up. So if you're a person who enjoys Instagram, be sure and check that out. It's just like our website. It's at Contemporary Mysticism. So that's it for our center. I want to mention, too, when we would meet in person, we would usually put out a little collection basket for particularly newer people who might appreciate what we're doing and want to leave a little donation for the work that we do. The center is completely member-supported. We can't do that online, but if you appreciate what we do and think it's valuable and would like to support the work of the center, please go to our website, look under About Us or the membership page, and you'll have an opportunity to do that. So, without further ado, I want to welcome back Mari Perron. Mari has been with us 2 times before in person, and so today she's able to be back with us via Zoom. Thank goodness for Zoom, right? Yeah. And as you know, Mari is the author and the first scribe of the national bestseller, A Course of Love, and she has just published a new book entitled Mari, The Way of the Marys, which is a fascinating dialogue between Mari, our own Mari Perron, and Mary of Nazareth. And she'll be talking about that today in our dialogue and looking at things like the feminine voice of God and how that relates to the transformation taking place today. So we are looking forward to it. Our interviewer extraordinaire, Patricia Pierce, she'll be joining us to lead our kind of opening conversation with Mari. As you may know, Patricia is a writer, a spiritual teacher, a guide, and a wonderful gifted person herself. And in fact, next month, Patricia will be offering a workshop on March 13th. Now, our programs are often on Sunday, but workshops are usually on Saturday. So it's on Saturday, March 13th. So we hope you'll check that out. It's entitled Embodying the Awakened World. And I think it'll be a perfect follow-up for what we're going to be talking about today. So check that out on our website. Since it's a workshop, you do need to register for that. Also, later on, we will have opportunities for attendees to come on and ask your questions, to dialogue with Mari one-on-one. And so we hope you'll keep that in mind after we've had our opening conversation for a while. So that's all coming up. So now I will turn it over to Mari and Patricia and let you folks take it away and dialogue for a while. And then whenever we're ready, you let us know and we'll do some Q&A. All right, folks.
Joe, before you go, can I just thank you? I was thinking about the center and what it's given me before coming on, and the first word that came to my mind was timeless. It's like it's something that isn't so contemporary that it goes with, changes a lot in terms of, I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but that was the word. It was just a beautiful word, I thought.
Thank you.
And then I also wanted to tell you, how it precipitated, in a way, the coming of the Way of Mary.
Wow.
Yeah, because after our event, I was presenting for the first time with my friend Mary Love.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked her to come with me because I had started to kind of, like, A Course of Love had always been like my lifeblood or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it had started to become more of a book. I was losing that really close connection. And Mary and I had Mary Love and I had such a close connection. I thought if she came with me, I would get that back. And the day afterwards, we were invited by Helen Burke, Lady Burke, one of your people, to gather at her home. And Retta Morgan and Jackie Lester were also there. And so before this time, not one single thought of the Way of Mary ever coming had come into my mind. But as we were talking that day, Retta, who has such a wonderful way with words, she said, these are the Marys, the ancient Essene midwives from the lineage of Mary. And I, and it was moved, of course, at that time, but it was only a few weeks later that I think that planted a seed, and I began to hear from Mary of Nazareth. So
that is a true honor, Mari, that we're a part of that. I think we felt a strong connection from the very beginning. We'd told Mari she's out in Minnesota and that she could consider the center her home on the East Coast. And I think it's kind of been that way over the past several years. So that's really an honor. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes,
so
thank
we
you.
want to hear more about the Way of Marys, and we'll look forward to it and then have a chance maybe to dialogue a little as we go along. Okay, Patricia, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Well, Mari, that was the story that you were wanting to tell. Is that right? About the center?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear that. Joe, I wonder if it's possible for you to hide the non-video participants. So it's just the two videos that are on the screen. You can check on that. So I've been so looking forward to this conversation with you for a lot of reasons.
Me too. With you, yeah.
A Course of Love just resonated with me so deeply, as did your new book, Mirari, which I had the pleasure of reading over the last few weeks. And for those who don't know the backstory of you and A Course of Love, maybe we could just sort of like the Reader's Digest version, just say a little bit about how that came to be, and how one thing that I really want to bring forward in our conversation is the role of relationship, and how core that is to the Way of Mary.
Yes.
And how A Course of Love came out of, in a sense, this relationship that you were in with a couple of other women, and Mary Love in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can just fill us in a little bit on how A Course of Love first made its appearance in your life.
Okay. Well, I had been reading A Course in Miracles for maybe about 2 years, just by myself. I had seen it in a newspaper article and was really enamored with it. And then one day, Mary was working still. I had stopped working. And because I felt a call to God. That was why I left my job. And I missed her a lot. And so she would come over and have coffee with me sometimes. So on this particular morning, she said, I lost my train of thought. I know the story by heart. Oh, she had a dream.
If you couldn't remember, I was going to prompt you. She had a dream, yeah.
Yes, she had a dream of a new Course in Miracles. And I felt something right away when she said that. And she hadn't been the big Course in Miracles fan that I was. And I felt like she was sharing it for me. And I had woken up that morning with this waking thought. You and Mary will have something to do with ordinal the end of ordinal time. So these were like two big things on the same day. And I began to slowly let it in that I might be going to do this. And it wasn't more than like a few weeks later that, in fact, it was days, because that was Mary's birthday, which was November 25th. And the course started on December 1st. That was 1998, I think.
Yes,
my mind's got mushy.
Yes, it was.
The more heartfelt I get, the more mushy my brain goes. Don't let that deter you, anyone.
So that was, so it's, I mean, first of all, A Course in Miracles landed in my life quite literally, how it does, right, in people's lives. And I felt like it was confirming things that I'd been experiencing in my own spiritual life. And then with A Course of Love, it felt like, oh, I feel like I'm coming home. It's like, it's so beautiful and it's so heart-centered. And one of the things that A Course of Love talks about is it makes mention of that the way of Jesus is coming to an end, and the way of Mary is now coming into its fulfillment.
Yeah.
And when I read that, and when I read especially, what it said, and it doesn't go into a lot of depth about A Way of Mary, which is why this new book is fabulous. But when I read that, it was like, I felt so relieved. It was like, it's just something in me. And I wonder if a lot of people might be feeling that, and especially women, because it is this re-emergence of the feminine principle that is so critical for us right now.
Yes. Yes.
So you got this intuition of this, this Way of Mary's, as Retta presented it, was sort of coming, but then you started getting something in 2013 that was like, whoa, I don't know. So tell us about that.
I have like no memory of it in a certain sense, in that I can't now find it anywhere in my old writing. I know it was from 2013 because I kind of filed it that way when I refound it, but I can't go back to the original. So it was sort of this mysterious thing that was sort of dropped into that time. And it felt just too radical for me. I didn't know quite what to make of it. And I don't know that I intentionally put it away, but it fell away. A Course of Love was republished. We started to have talks about that shortly afterwards. And so that might have been part of it. But it's my favorite part now, is that beginning, because it's shown me so much. Can I talk about it a little bit? What the beginning talks about is women around a fire. And I felt like I could actually kind of see this vision. And it says the women were on their haunches, birthing new life and protecting the babes from the wild dogs. And that we were to feed no more male egos. And I can't remember what part came in 13 and what part came in 18, but those are the things that today really just impact me because of kind of what's happening in the world. And also, one of the side benefits, I've always seen myself as devoted. And I think in my mind, devoted was such a soft thing, sort of a soft feminine way of being. But when I think of those women around the fire protecting the babes from the wild dogs, it's like they were devoted. It made me see my devotion in a new way, because it's really true that when you feel devotion to something, you do have those protective instincts, I call A Course of Love my sacred charge. It's something that I won't ever abandon. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be out teaching it, because that's not its way, but it's in me, and I've just read your book, or a lot of it. I didn't read the whole thing because I didn't get it very long ago. It's going out of my mind again. There was something that it reminded me of. The way women friendship is, the way the friendship between women can be so close. And of course, I've already talked about what happened with the women in Philadelphia when I was there, and that incredible bond and heart opening seems to be so expansive to me. I feel it's part of why I've been able to hear beyond this realm. And I think this realm is becoming closer, that more people are hearing. And it doesn't necessarily even have to come in a voice of someone like Mary or Jesus, but it's just, you're tapping into a greater knowing.
Right. Yes. So you started receiving this information from Mary in 2013, and it was a little too much. It's too radical, are your words. Do you have any sense, looking back? Well, so that was in 2013, and then you picked it up again in 2018, and at that point it wasn't too radical any longer.
Right.
And we were in a different world too.
Yes.
In 2018 from 2013. So do you recall how it was that it seemed too radical back in 2013? What Mary was saying to you?
I don't have a great sense of it, but I was I had some family issues going on. I think that was one part of it, which maybe it was just that I had to be so strong in my family life that I couldn't take something else, that called for that. And now I kind of know better. It's like, okay, Mary, come in, just be with me. So that might have been part of it. But also, like I say, I can't really place myself to a great degree in 2013, but I do know that I was interested. This will seem a little odd. I was interested in feminism at that time. I'd been writing a book called Discovering Feminism in the Canning Room, which I did. Looking at my old college books, which were stored down there, I had this resurgence, and I went to a conference on feminism, and so it wasn't a lack of interest in that. It's really sort of unclear to me, but that's kind of the way I think I was maybe in a transition time. And what ended up coming out of that transition was the republishing of Course of Love. And so then my life was in that straight zone of Course of Love for the next 4 years. It was all Course of Love. And that's when it started to feel more like the book, Yeah. I needed it to be more than that again, because these sacred texts really shouldn't just be books, They're really, there's something that live in you and support you and encourage you, and need that devotion that you have to them.
When you used that word devotion earlier, and there was, as I read the book, Mirari, that is, and I'm very curious to hear you describe how you sense Mary's energy, how you experience that in yourself. But for me, there were parts in the book where there was like a fierceness that came through, like this resoluteness almost. and like not taking any BS, like the old is done, like, you know, and let it go. And now it's the time for the new. And I want to talk more about that, which will be interesting, because how do you talk about the new when it's unstructured and unplanned and in the realm of in the imaginal realm, right? So,
and it's coming,
anyway,
yes,
and it's coming, and we sense it, even though we can't see it, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
The first part of your question is what I meant to talk about earlier, if I can keep it in my mind long enough.
This is one of the consequences of stepping into this.
It really is.
Like the thinking mind just kind of, go on, shuts off.
Okay, I know what it is. I better talk quick. Because when you talked about your friendship, it was like this knowing with Mary. It made me think of like all my fantastic conversations with Mary Love and Christy Lord. And, you know, I mean, I could tell you so many women, friends that I have these dialogues with that are just spectacular. But I thought of you and your friend too, and how, I mean, I could just imagine that, you know, you have this dialogue or this conversation and something new happens and you're so in it, you know, and it's like your friend leaves. This happens to me all the time. Mary usually sits right here. And you think, what just happened? You know, it's like, and if you got your journal out, you know, you would write down as much as you could, you know, it's like, okay, what was it? You know, and if your friend wrote it down, it would be something different probably, but it would have some nuances that were the same, you know? Right. And so this is kind of how I came to see the way I feel about receiving Way of Mary. It's kind of that same energy of what I would have in a dialogue with a good friend, where it happens, and when we're finished, it's like, what was that?
What was that? Where did that come from?
Yeah. Or, you know, a few hours later, I can't remember what it was, and I have to go back and read it. And the nice thing is, since I'm less of a participant than I am with friends, I'm typing, you know, so I get to go back.
You get to record it as it's happening.
Yeah. But that's the feeling. I would say that's the feeling.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's so big on women to women solidarity, I think, you know. I think she's really encouraging us to, I don't know that we need encouragement, most of us, but I think our holy relationships with women are particularly important now.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we look at this emerging more fully of the feminine, of the divine feminine, and of women really stepping into and standing in our own power and our own authority, which she describes that, how male authority has a certain kind of characteristic, or masculine authority and feminine authority have different qualities to them.
Yes, yes.
And that the feminine is the power to give life. It is this power of relationship and union, and how, as you're saying, in that context, something new emerges that could never come forth from any of the participants on their own. So there's some dynamic in the coming together that opens something up. And it occurred to me that, in a sense, A Course in Miracles came forth through the Way of Mary, because it too was something that came out of this context of two people who were committed to a common goal. So there is this quality of relationship. And so anyway, I want to talk a little bit about some of the characteristics. And it's so hard. Let me just say that preparing for this interview was unlike any other preparation that I've done.
That's good.
And how do you prepare? See, that's the thing. How do you prepare? Because and Mary at one point says in the book, your certainties are your greatest peril. And she talks about all plans obstruct the coming.
Yeah.
So there's this way of the new is this, that it's amorphous. It's something that we don't structure, that we don't plan,
yes,
that we make way for, that we allow, that we merge with.
Yes.
And it becomes birthed through us.
Yes.
So there are some things that really stood out to me in this. First, obviously, the relationship component. She also talks about the imaginal realm.
Mm-hmm.
Could you riff a little bit on that, the imaginal realm?
Yes, and that's a very personal story for me too. The last book of this series with Mary, and I sense it's going to be written more by me or more as a joint offering, two as one offering, but will be on the imaginal realm. And what happened during A Course of Love was I got stopped. It was between chapter 19 and 20. And for like 10 weeks, I didn't hear. And I was so upset. I didn't know what I thought, what have I done wrong? You know, that sort of way you do. So it was a traumatic kind of experience. So when Jesus came back with chapter 20, which is wholeheartedness, the embrace, he uses the word imaginal and only used it that one time in the whole work. From here, life becomes imaginal. Well, I really didn't know what imaginal meant. I didn't really think of it at that time. You know, I finished that and 2 more books. But a few years ago, I began to hear a little bit about the imaginal out there. And I went back through some of my old books like James Hillman and saw a little bit about the imaginal, and I began to just get very intrigued with this and to feel that it was like this gift, you know, that my draw to the imaginal realm was like my gift for this birthing of this work. And I do believe that I am in touch with that it's a way of being inspired by realms beyond this one. And of course, you may have noticed in Mirari that there's all this talk about time and how time is changing, the swirls of time and eternity coming together. And I've actually felt that. So I think this, the imaginal realm, which is kind of like this accessible way of moving beyond what we know in this, you know, earth realm, I think is coming closer and closer, and why so many people are beginning to hear, and like I say, maybe in ways they just feel as their own, no name attached to it, but it's different. It's of knowing beyond what we know from this life and this world. So we're tapping into something, and it's very rich and very soulful and very strong, and it's asking for something, which, you know, I don't completely know what it's asking for yet, but I think that's the way too. You know, it's like, it's just sort of an asking, and you're left to discover, you know, and that's the beauty in so many ways of these mystical ways. Nobody's spelling anything out, you know, and that's part of my kind of antithesis for things that do get spelled out. It's like and one of the things I love so much about works like Way of Mary and Course of Love and even A Course in Miracles, there's this rhythmical, difficult, like you could spend your life, some people do spend their lives on that language, on the very many things that you could find within that language. And also, they meet you newly every time you go back to them. They say something new because you've changed, and it's like it changes right along with you. So there's something in these works that is so much more than the words, and certainly so much more than learning what anything means. This end of learning is I probably fell twice as in love with A Course of Love when we got to parts about the end of learning and creation being the new way, So I've been called to this kind of knowing for a long time.
Yeah.
And oh my God, does A Course of Love sound prophetic now 20 years later?
Yeah, doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Doesn't it though? And there again, when you say that, when you reread it, you pick up different things, because there again, there's a relationship. You are in relationship with the words, with the message.
Yeah.
So because it's a little tricky to talk about the new, which is this amorphous, but the new is arising, and the feminine principle has a lot to do with it. But maybe it would be easier to talk about what it isn't, and talk about the old, which talks about as the old, like the old ways of being, and how would you describe that?
As she uses a lot of good words about it, like she calls it the constructed reality. It's so we're heading toward what is created, not made, if you think of that saying. And what we have is mainly made. It's produced, it's promoted, it's manipulatable. It can manipulate you. It tries to often. And so this sort of, but she mainly talks about sort of the structure that we're all, and I'm hoping this might be something that even with the tragedy of COVID becomes a bit of a blessing, that people might realize that rushing around continuously, being continuously busy, once they've experienced some solitude, they might find some depth and joy in that they didn't in their busy lives. And things might slow down and become more intimate, because the organized ways, which are so helpful for, if you want to join to read a book, or if you want to join for teaching, or, many of those kinds of things, for this sort of intimate knowing, don't work as well. And so she speaks of the duad, which is sort of an old word now, but I love it. It's two together. That's its literal meaning, is two together. And I believe that, even back in A Course in Miracles, that was the biggest thing I took from it, was holy relationship. I asked people to be in holy relationship with me. And one of my longest time Course in Miracles friends says nobody else ever asked him to be in holy relationship. That meant something to me. And so that to me would be a great part of it, would be the knowing and being known. That is so essential. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you know yourself? And that's probably the hugest part of it, to also be known, And, and that's hard to do if you're always in organized endeavors.
Yes.
They're less personal.
Yeah,
and the personal has been frowned on.
I'm sorry?
The personal has been frowned on in a lot of spiritual circles. Right. And the story has been frowned on. And hardship, it's like, well, you don't want to talk about your hardship because somebody's going to judge you.
Right.
Well, okay.
Something must be misaligned if you're experiencing hardship.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings me to something else I'd love to hear you talk about, that she talks quite a lot about actually in the book, is grief and the role of grief.
Yes.
It is, she mentions it a lot. Yeah. As it being part of the advent of the new.
Yes.
That it's critical, and that we, I think, this is me now commenting, but But she also says something about that, you know, we might try to sidestep our grief, believing that, you know, it's not spiritual to be grieving.
Yeah.
Can you say more about how you understand the role of grief and why it is so essential in the emergence of the new?
Yes, I would love to. And I I think that was something that started for me with my friend Mary Love's loss of her baby daughter, because my spiritual journey started at that time. That was my opening, actually, to spirituality, was accompanying my friend in her sorrow. And so I could never see it as something that was not significant. And, you know, of course I did hear about that a lot in spiritual language. And so it's almost like, you know, Mary had such grief. Mother Mary had such grief. And she asks somewhere in the book, she said, what is more real? What I'm telling you I experienced, or what was said about me, you know? And so that sense of our own experience being real is, to me, really crucial. If you can't allow yourself to grieve, you're saying my experience isn't real. If you can't allow yourself to be sad over divisions that are going on, you know, you can't recognize them as real. So it's like, this is a key to bringing back things that have been designated out here as unreal reality, you know, and they don't detract, they enrich. Mm-hmm. Every opening of our heart takes us somewhere. And grief certainly does that. You know, it's a catalyst. I know you know that. Yeah, it opens. It's like your whole, I mean, your whole life changes with grief.
Yeah.
Yes. Even if it's a parent who's old, your life has changed. You know, it has changed, and it's no less than, so there's something that goes on that makes you embrace. I love that word. It's one of my favorites from A Course of Love, the embrace. It lets you embrace it all, you know, and hold it close. And then when you're ready, you let it go. You don't let it go because somebody tells you, you know.
Right. You grieve. Yes. The grief happens so that it can eventually be let go, but it can't be let go if it isn't grieved.
Yeah.
And she talks about loving as a mother, loving all beings, and feeling that mother love and that mother grief wherever there is suffering, wherever there is injustice.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the wide open heart.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
you know, I think about that and how that is such a critical portal for us to allow a new world to be birthed.
It really is. Yes. She said her way was to feel and refuse not to feel.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
Yeah. It just seems to me that if you can't feel it, it's not ever going to change. You know, if you can't feel that agony that somebody experiences and having them being denigrated by the president, for instance, you know, that's a recent one that's happened, you know, by being manhandled by the police, that happens, you know, to me, I'm really sensitive to the poor as well, because this country, you know, with the minimum wage, the price of housing, the price of healthcare, it's insane. It's insane that so many of our people are living the way that they are. And in the next book, Mary talks about them. I'm trying to think of the word she uses. but it's like they form like this counterculture of the underachievers. That's what it was. She called them the underachievers. And they have this counterculture. And she also talks about how it gets used, how that culture, because people need money, it gets used. And, but if you don't feel that, if you're too separated to know, and I've never been, because I've never had much money, and I was a single parent. So I know that struggle and feel it very strongly. And a couple of my kids are in that zone, and I think a lot of people who've done real well in life have young adult children who are struggling. And it's like, she says something about what needs not be. Mm-hmm. And the end of what needs not be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that she talks about grief in relation to that too, grieving what doesn't need to be.
Right.
Yeah. And now I'm the one who's lost the question I was going to ask you. Wow, it just went away. You see what an influence you're having on me. It's like in the zone. Oh, I know what it was. She talks about how, evolutionarily speaking, humanity has reached a point where all needs can be met.
Yes.
And that now what's called for is the mother's heart, the mother's love, the impulse to care for all.
Yes.
Because up until this point, we've acted more from instinct, survival instincts. But now that doesn't have to be our reality, that we can live in a world of mutual caring for one another.
Yes. And I think she also makes it pretty clear that, or maybe she doesn't, maybe it's me, but more and more I come to see these qualities that we call feminine and soft. I've already kind of said this, but that's also one of them. The heart that bleeds for every child lost. It's like, that's a strength. That is not a weakness.
Yes.
And so this reframing of feminine qualities as strength and courage, rather than a sensitivity and weakness, that's happening and needs to happen.
Yes, and for the planet as well. And
yes.
What would happen if we collectively entered into a time of grieving and mourning for all that the planet has suffered, all that doesn't need to be, that
yes.
if we really truly entered into that. I remember having a dream once where I was told like there need to be like massive mournings in order to rebalance global energies. It was like, as long as we're tamping down that grief, the patterns can't change.
Yes.
We're keeping them locked in.
And I think too, it's sort of the word thingness is in A Course of Love somewhere. And that thingness, the commoditizing of everything, and even sort of, well, we can get now to Mary's beautiful word, Marari, which means wonder, and what that alone could do. I know sometimes I laugh at myself, when I reread Marari and she says something beautiful and I say, oh, the squirrel's doing blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, it was really something. And you were in that state of wonder, like you were like the squirrel, look what the squirrel is doing. So you were in that state, which is marvelous.
It really is, it's like that cabin is just like, 40 feet out my door, but it's mine for one thing. If you get a space that's your own, it's really beautiful, especially if you've been a mother and grandmother and you have people around a lot. And it's like, oh my God, I have space, And then to share it, I mean, in the trees, it's like this particular maple tree, it was so beautiful and glorious, and it came right over, it shielded the cabin. It was just so beautiful. And then its trunk cracked and it had to come down. And the darn thing is regrowing. They cut it off. We didn't have it extracted. They cut it off at the stump, and it's as high as the cabin already.
It's having another go at it. That's great.
So,
that's really beautiful.
But I think that sense of wonder, I just think she's spot on about that. That if we can feel that again, and it doesn't have to be big, glorious things. It can be sunrise, that's big and glorious enough. And it makes us appreciative again, I suppose,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was contemplating that word wonder and that experience of wonder of, it is like how to even say, like being in the presence of something that is beyond knowing. Like it's not about intellectual knowing. It's receiving something. And there's this quality of, like, if I'm in wonder, it's like I'm interfacing with the unknown. It's hard to find words, but there is something that just opens us up to life, to experience.
And you're not all there, which means in reality, like you're not feet planted in reality when you're in wonder, sort of. You've let yourself, almost like dreaming or something.
Maybe touch the imaginal realm a little bit.
Yes.
The imaginal realm.
Yes, the imagination is so huge. And that really is from another realm. I mean, this is what you realize eventually, is that we already have all these incredible qualities that aren't of the physical body, that aren't of the mind, and that allow us to dream and have vision and, all these things that we do as human beings. That is part of a realm that's basically beyond the body,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mari, I want to make sure that we allow time for other folks to bring their questions.
Okay.
But I just really, really thank you, not only for this time, but thank you for the contribution that you have made to the world, and that you are not like just the delivery person, like the Amazon delivery person, like there's you, like you are, this work comes through you, but it is also of you.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge that and to express my gratitude to you, because I know my life has been touched deeply by what you've brought forth.
And I can see from your book that you're touching many people's lives as well. And I'd love to know you and know you better, Well, so I would guess we'll connect again.
I would cherish that. Thank you.
Okay.
So blessings. And I'd like to ask Joe then to come back on, and I'm going to shut off my video. I'll still be listening, but we can move on to the Q&A. Take care.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, Mari, so much, both of you, for that inspiring and uplifting conversation. It seems like it's kind of our window into the transcendent nature of ourselves.
Nice word.
And that is so needed in these times. So thank you. So attendees, there's time for attendees to have a chance to ask questions or make a comment. To do that, you do have to click on the raise your hand button. Otherwise, we won't know that you have a question or comment. Also, we do ask, since there's quite a large crowd today, and we'll try to get to as many as we can, the system has a little timer, so we ask that you keep your questions to no more than 3 minutes. Otherwise, you'll hear a little bell.
That's a little.
It just reminds you you're about to be cut off. So if you would be so kind as to, keep them articulate. But we do want to know questions or comments. So if you'd honor that, we'd appreciate it. And also, if you click your Q&A button, we'll see if we have time for any questions that come over in the Q&A. Okay, well, I see that Bill or Gloria have a question, and we want to ask them to come on board and let's see, there we are, and ask them to turn on their video and unmute themselves and see what question they have for us today.
They're waiting for you.
I'm waiting for them. Okay, Bill or Gloria, are you with us? Oh, there you are. Okay, please ask your question.
Well, hello, Mari. It's been
Hello, Bill.
And
hello, Gloria.
I'm thrilled. I'm looking forward to getting into your continued work. In all honesty, I'm embarrassed to say I did not have a question. I was looking at how do I get to where I go.
That happens to me all the time. Don't worry about it.
So on that, we're here enjoying this, and thank you. We're complete for this time. Thanks.
All righty. We have, let's see, Aaliyah. Some named Aaliyah is on. And if you, Aaliyah, would come on and click to start your video, we will.
Hi.
There you are. Okay. What question do you have? We saw you and we lost you.
Yeah, I've lost her.
Let's see. Well, sorry about that. All right. Let's see. Jackie Lesser, I'm seeing, has her hand up. And so, Jackie, we're going to bring you on and ask if you would start your video. There's a smile that I love to see. And let us know what question you might have for Mari.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Hi. And just let me tell you, send me your address, because I keep forgetting to get your address from somebody. I was going to send you a book, but I didn't have your address.
Oh, well, I have my very own. Yes. Lady actually gifted me with this one.
Oh.
And I wanted to say that, first of all, I tried 100 times because this Zoom room was filled up. So we had to try 100 times to get in.
Oh.
But I also just wanted to say how incredible it was to listen to the two of you dialogue, because it was such a wonderful example of what's possible. So it wasn't really a question. It was more of a comment of how countercultural this has been, this kind of dialogue, and how beautifully you and Patricia demonstrated and modeled that for us. So
she was a great dialogue partner. Absolutely.
It really was so beautiful. And I feel so hopeful and also urgent for this gorgeous evolution of our world. So thank you. And it's so wonderful to see you.
Thank you for being part of the day.
Yeah.
That I talked about. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So it looks like it is muted. Oh, here's Charlene. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Hi. Oop, I can't hear you.
Hi. Hello, Mari. Hi. Am I on for my class?
Yes, now you are. Yes.
So much. All right. Thank you for sharing how this work came to you and through you. I really appreciate this. This is my first experience with the center. So thank you so much.
Wow.
And so I was wondering if you could give us some nuggets from your work, from your book, about grief. You said if we don't acknowledge our grief, then we're not real, or we don't acknowledge our reality or our sense of being here. I forget exactly what you said. I was trying to write it down, but it really struck home. So thank you.
Mary says that, all living beings grieve, and I think we just have somehow gotten away from the sense that grief is appropriate, the thinking that somebody's going to the next life and it's going to be so much better. But grief is also for us, who are left behind. And Elizabeth Lesser wrote a wonderful book on it. And I remember the words, grief is a healing elixir. It's actually how you heal, that's why it comes, is so that you can heal. It's like the scab, that forms. So I just opened because I knew I had grief marked here. Have you seen Marari?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I can just read you a tiny bit. She said, "It is those who have given room to their grief who are ready to navigate this birth. For the end of the old will feel like a separation from many, including wives from husbands and children from their parents." Well, that's maybe not the best one. It's just what I opened to when I got to grief.
Beautiful.
But, there's this kind of an old word of being forsaken, and one of the things that I do remember being said about grief that I liked, it's about forsaking no one, and am I getting it all to what you were wanting to know about it? I can look for other there are wonderful quotes in Marari. And in fact, you can find them on my website. I keep
definitely, Ruth. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been an honor. Thanks so much.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay, we have a question from Jan. We'll ask Jan if she would join us and turn on her video. And we will invite her. There you go, Jan. So be sure and unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mari, Patricia,
Hi,
Joseph. Hi. Patricia's helped me see that the way of Mary may be the way I'm walking. And I've had lots of experiences, but I'm just now naming it. And what I'd like to know is, how do we stand in that authority and have relationship and be strengthened in this? Because it can feel very strange.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm growing into this myself. And I think this is why she talks of the way of the Marys, that we can support each other as we grow into our authority. That's what she calls it, that the feminine need to grow into their authority. And I think many of us, especially older women like myself and people who, maybe weren't professionals in life, which I wasn't really, in my younger, somewhat. But anyway, I think certain women have gained status, and it's wonderful. I'm so happy that, many women have professions and they're recognized in those professions as authorities, but this is authority about our own lives, and that's a whole different thing, which I think maybe the masculine and the men, the boys are raised to have that authority, and we weren't. So it's kind of late in coming for us. And being nurtured this way by another feminine voice to saying, yes, it's time to claim your authority. That's a huge part of it. That's going to help many, just saying, okay, it's time. That's so much of what this time is about, don't you think? That
Yeah. And just to say, it's okay, and it's time. Yes. It's okay. And I'm in a group with Patricia, and that helps to say,
I bet.
Here we are. And I have other women groups, but not all of them understand this realm. It's like, I feel it deeply. And I look around and I have all kind of symbols of Mary in my house. And it's like, I didn't put those there. You know what I mean? They're there. And anyhow. So thank you very much, Mary, to claim it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Okay,
Joseph.
we have a question from Roger. we'll see if Roger would join us. And there's Roger. We'll ask you to turn on your video and unmute yourself. And hi, Roger.
Namaste to you all.
Namaste.
Hello.
What a privilege. Thank you so much, Mari. This is my first time on this call and with this group, and I just love the energy in the field. And I want to thank you profusely for your work. The Course of Love has just changed my life incredibly. Thank you very much.
I'm so glad.
And it's not just that, but just a few years ago, I didn't really even believe in channeling. And when I started to read and sense and discern, which is a gift I've always had, I suspect, it just totally broke my heart open to find that it's true. And once I started finding that out, oh boy, I went down that rabbit hole. Reverend Bill and Carol, you guys are on the call.
Well, in a way, that's kind of how you know it's true, isn't it? When it breaks your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You let it happen, and you release that control and go with the flow of love. And it just works. Somebody says that. I had that question about, I believe that we are both energies, of course, divine masculine and divine feminine. And it took my opening my heart before I could start to examine my gifts of the Murari. I can channel. I can do these things. And sometimes they have really been a blessing. And other times not so much.
I getcha.
So, you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Yes, when they have an opportunity to teach us something, it may not always come the way we thought it should.
Yeah.
We
have to have a sense of humor, huh, Roger?
Oh, we do. And I think I've gladly harvested that, because otherwise I couldn't accept who I was. Looking backwards, say, wow, that was a whole different life. But
thank you, Roger. I wanted to get to a few of the questions on our Q&A, but thank you.
Let me get quickly into it then. I'd like that we can accept masculine and feminine as oneness, and I do want to be more inclusive and not say, I want to, you use the term women's solidarity, which is almost a trigger to the masculine. Because men, when they get pushed, they push back. That's a reaction. Okay? They can get over it, but it's going to take a little...
Well, it is a union, and I didn't mention that, so thank you, Roger.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Roger.
I wanted to know, I think we are one and moving in the right direction without the pendulum swinging too much anymore. Let's try to completely bring ourselves to a beautiful state of peace.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Roger. Along that same line, we have a question that came in on the Q&A, Mari, that says, is the book as good for men as it would be for women? Any comments on those?
I don't know, but I was actually really worried about it, that the men wouldn't like it at all. And some of my first responders who were eloquent about how it moved them were men. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I don't have a huge sampling yet, but like I said, I was kind of worried, and it hasn't proven to be true so far,
Well, speaking as one man, I find it very empowering because men get put in roles too, as you're probably aware, and to have the not only permission but the encouragement to let our feminine side be balanced with that other side that has been expectations for us for so many years, as providers and solver of problems and all this. It's to me such a relief and a beauty and a joy to realize I can I can abide in that inner space of being that is transcendent, the way we talked about earlier, that is knowing and feeling. And so to me, that's very exciting. We have a question from Coralie. I want to see if she'll join us and turn on her video and join us with her question. There you go. Hey, Coralie.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, my dear friend.
Hi, Mary. Wow. Wow. I want to echo Jackie, I think, the enormous privilege of hearing you and Patricia giving us such a masterful lesson in what we're talking about. And also echoing, I think it was Jan, in talking about groups.
Mm-hmm.
Before the call started, I had opened my book randomly, seeking some accompaniment from Mary, talking about this new way of sharing.
Mm-hmm.
On page 216. Mary of Nazareth says, our sharing is and will be different, only in that this is not a course, and that it is of my feminine voice to yours. And she actually says of two mothers' hearts, but not everybody is a mother, whether they're, anyway. And my question my curiosity in my own circumstances, because I do guide a Spanish, as you know, you have visited us, a Spanish reading group of A Course of Love. What is the place for the courses now, for Jesus's courses, the Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, the Course of Love? I don't know how to, I'm sort of wanting to be in this place of this kind of dialogue. And I still find so many people wanting to be in the time of learning and looking to the voice of authority, which is so often a male voice, and how difficult it is. And I think you and I have shared on this, how difficult it is to come from this space of softness and femininity and just sharing from the heart and from what is personal, which again is so much what you do, what happens in Mirari. It's a personal sharing, and yet it's completely transcendental.
Yes. Well, it hasn't been valued to know this way, to know in this way or share in this way. And so as it becomes valued, people do kind of follow that way. Oh, learning is valued. Big groups are valued. They don't see what they can gain from the small, intimate, a couple of voices sharing deeply and profoundly. They haven't yet seen that as valuable to them yet, as nurturing to them. And I believe when they do, they will turn that way. But it's kind of up to us maybe to show them, if people see, oh, I want that, I want to be like that. I want to know and be known, Yeah.
Well, thank you, Coralie. That's a wonderful question. So I think I would like also to jump over for a moment to our Q&A. And there we will have a question or two. Mari, I see there's a question from Jonathan that says, quoting from, I think, The Little Prince, it's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So maybe you don't need to answer that. It's just a comment that we can share. Let me make things a little more exciting here, if they could ever be. Barbara wrote in and expresses her love both to you and Patricia. And she says, Mari, I hear you talking about grief, but what do you do when you're so angered and sickened when we see and hear women like, I probably shouldn't use her name, one of the newest members of the House of Representatives, in a place of power, spew such hate and division?
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Boy. Well, I tell you, that's really a hard question, and I don't know if there are any easy answers. But I think for those of us on the spiritual path, or in this time of growing ourselves into our own heart's wisdom, I have found, and Jesus talks about it, Mary talks about it. Jesus calls it the clear pools, and it's like some things fall away and some people flow together. And at this moment, I can't say exactly the way Mary talks about it, but that we have this permission now to stay among people with whom we have resonance. So it's like our growth is so important that if you find people with whom you can feel that you're able to get your feet on the ground with this, coming into the new, it's okay to stay there. You don't have to go be with all kinds of different people that irritate you and stuff right now. Right now, it's like, okay, find the resonance, find what lifts you, find where you're like this talking because you can't stand it. You have to share. And that is where I think this change will come from, really.
Patricia, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Patricia recently wrote an article or podcast that's just amazing. And to me, this kind of relates to this question. It's entitled The Insurrection of Love, or something like that, in which she kind of contrasts what's going on in our country.
Yeah.
Back on January 6th with the notion of love itself being an insurrection. And I'm wondering, Patricia, if you thought that might relate to what you wrote, and if so, if you might just take a moment and reflect on that with us from your article that your podcast.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I wrote that, and I've been on retreat this past week. And what did I write? Maybe you should talk about it, Joe.
Sister.
You want to tell you what you wrote?
Yeah, I know that feeling though.
Well, but you can talk, Joe, about what I wrote, because I don't remember.
Well, I don't remember either exactly, but it was the idea that love itself, when we give ourselves over to it, and that becomes our way of being, it in itself becomes an insurrection.
Yes.
That is just as powerful or more powerful than the negative stuff we saw on January 6th in our country. Right. That was the sense I got from it.
Right. And the word insurrection means rising up.
Yeah.
So it's like this rising up. And I want to just echo and just really go yes to what Mari just said about being in communion with people with whom we resonate, because that's how we're amplifying that. The new, we're anchoring it, as Mary said, we're anchoring the new.
Yes. And Patricia, I just wrote 2 pieces on claiming it. It's so funny. It's a word all through Course of Love, and nobody's ever talked about it. And it was really with me. So anyway, you might enjoy looking at that. It's kind of got that same, something of a flair to it. But insurrectional maybe.
We'll swap articles.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to drop off so more people can ask.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. But I did think there was a real connection there with what we were talking about and your podcast. And a little later, I'll refer people maybe to your website and podcast where they can follow up on that. I do see we have a question from Elliot. Elliot is a longtime member of the center. And Elliot, if you would come on board with us, we'd like to invite you to ask your question.
Hello, I don't know if I know how to get the video showing. I just wanted to say hello, Mari.
Hi.
Oh,
my video's off now.
Sorry about that.
That's
back. Now there we go. Okay.
Yes, Elliot's an old friend. I still find letters from him. We used to write real letters to each other, and I find them falling out of drawers and stuff. I mean, for years we did that.
I just really enjoyed, there was so much healing in the last hour, and I enjoyed your presence, of course, and your heart, your transparent heart, and I'm just so grateful to have been a part of this.
Thank you, Elliot. Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Elliot, very much. We have a question from Gail. We'll ask if Gail wants to come on board, and let's see if we can see her. Okay, are you there, Gail? Sometimes people have had their hands up for a while, so they might have gone off to get a cup of coffee or something.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be me.
Gail, are you with us? Okay, maybe we lost Gail. So let's go to Emily. Had a question. Emily, are you there? If so, we'd like to hear your question. Oh, we saw you and then lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Where are you?
My friend Alan is here too, but he couldn't get on the meeting, so he's FaceTiming me.
Oh.
Well, we see
I thought you were in
mostly
your
your
car
cell
or something.
phone.
It looks sort of like a rearview mirror.
So this is Alan and this is me.
Oh, hi, Alan. Okay, what's your question, Emily?
I'll ask my question and I'll ask Alan's if that's okay.
That's good. As long as they're within 3 minutes.
Okay. Mari, first I want to say thank you for following your mission, because reading your books has helped me to realize that my calling is important for me to do because other people will benefit from it too. So I was reading Peace in the chapter on needs. I've read it a bunch of times.
Aww.
And also your story of leaving your job, even though you were not sure of what was going to happen. I left mine 6 months ago. I know it was the right thing to do, but I feel a bit crazy. So thank you for that example. And Alan's question, I guess mine wasn't really a question. Alan's question.
Well, thank you for telling me about that influence on you and your courage.
Thank you. Alan's question is, do you still speak with peace?
No, it's been a really long time. Hi, Alan. I still speak with Mary Love and a little bit with Julianne sometimes, but I know once I started hearing from Jesus, and it really kind of faded with peace after that. So, but those books were very important to me.
I could tell.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they really helped me. Actually, I read them after I read A Course of Love, and it made me realize that I should read the course again.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for, I'm glad you're sharing. I was going to say, we have a number of people who have kind of worked the system to our advantage. You know, normally we'll get anywhere from 20, 30, maybe 40 people at one of our meetings. Well, due to Mari's wonderful work, well, let me back up and say, so that being said, webinar license with Zoom are quite expensive. So we have a license for 100 people, okay, because we normally get 20, 30, 40. So within about a minute after 2 o'clock Eastern time today, we Zoomed up to over 100 people. So obviously some people couldn't get on, and of course they'll be able to watch our program by video. It'll be on our website. The whole program will be on our website within a couple of days, you know. But I got texts from a number of people who are doing just what Emily was doing there. They're kind of glumming up around somebody's iPad or cell phone and then joining somebody else by FaceTime. So we're really, I'm proud of us. We're working the system to get everybody on. Well, we got a question from Sarah. Sarah, I wanted to see if you could join us and maybe ask your question. Start your video and unmute, and we'd like to hear from you.
Hello.
Hello, we're here. We got you. Go ahead.
Can't hear you.
We had you on. Something happened to your video. I mean, your audio.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, speak up. You're a little weak, but speak up.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
We have lots of headphones going on in my
head. Right.
I thank you guys so much. I'll be brief. I spent most of last year doing and reading A Course of Love, and it just changed everything for me. And then I got the email about the Mirari book, and I read it in like 2 weeks, and it was just tremendous. And I have to say, this morning I had a very strange dream where a friend or a family relative who passed last year came to me and gave me a pendant of Mother Mary and told me it was important for me to have it. And then I woke up this morning and I texted my mother, who's been going through some difficult times, and she said she couldn't sleep last night, and when she woke up, she put the radio on and the song Let It Be by the Beatles was on. And she said, you should, go through and just listen to the song again. And I did. And the lyrics are all about Mother Mary. I just wanted to share, and I apologize, I'm having weird noises in my headphones and stuff. So I just wanted to share that, and then, encourage people to go and listen to the song, because it was really very relevant and humbling and kind of a cool experience. So
it's a great song, and look what I'm wearing, a Mary medal. You might want to think about it.
Well, I have little bits and pieces in a small space, but I have my book, and I actually think I need to bring this to my mom, and she's been like open to reading it, and I think I just finished it, so it needs to go to her next. So
wonderful. Thank you for calling in.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. We have a question.
Whoop. Wait a minute.
Okay. We got something went crazy. Okay. We had a question from Michael. Michael, if you would start your video and join us, we'd love to hear your question.
Hi there. Yeah. Wow. It's lovely to be here, and I think first and foremost, just wanted to say thank you. Your book found me during lockdown, and it's been a companion, and it's been a real source of joy, and it's connected me to a fellowship of people and given me a very unique experience where I feel like I'm with a group of people who are able to really see me, as opposed to my authentic identity, as opposed to the fact that I'm a man, the fact that I'm South African, the fact that, all these layers that people get stuck with the presentation. And your book has just invited people to look past what's being presented and to feel what's deeper. And I'm finding that immensely healing.
Oh.
Because I work with children and they do it naturally. Yes. But in the adult world, it's not been my experience. So I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
I've not read The Way of the Marys, but in a way, I just know that I am a Mary, and at the moment I'm totally preggers. I'm carrying this thing in my womb, this idea, this thing that's going to become something. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I just wanted to, that's a little funny thing that's been in my head. I'm like totally a Mary. And, but the question I wanted to ask is about wholeheartedness and, this integrating of mind and heart.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's just trying to clarify because if there's only love and we're integrating our hearts and our minds, then what is the mind in that? And I suppose the question I'd like to ask is, I'm kind of framing it as the heart is unconditional love and the mind is actually conditional love. Not I'll only love you if, but the love that's able to address the variability in wholeness.
Yeah.
Does that make sense as a question?
Yes. And it's probably in some ways a personal question, because of what you see the mind as and the heart as, but it's like to see with the eyes of the heart, to feel, the heart's thought, there's it's like there's a different tone, you might say, and probably something about what you're talking about with your identity has to do with that people don't see you, you're saying, necessarily as you really are, but that seeing with the heart and mind combined, and might be what you're looking for, that people see you. I mean, I think that's kind of what it is when you do that combining. You see truly, and you feel the knowing. It's almost like, just having an idea of the knowing, or a fact of knowing. It's nothing anymore. It's the feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, and the beauty of being seen is your authentic. For me, the beauty of being seen in my authenticity is that it just lets love express.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to experience that with children, but it's a real privilege to experience it with a spiritual fellowship. So
I'm glad you're finding that. I really am.
Yeah, and just thanks again for.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your beautiful story and journey with us. I thought that was meaningful. And so I think we have time maybe for one more question. Let's go to Paula. Paula had her hand up for a while, and we hadn't gotten around to her. So Paula, if you would, let me get over here, join us. There you are. And be able to turn on your video and unmute. I hope we can get Paula. There you are. So if you would unmute so we can hear you, we'll be good to go. And you can ask your question.
Okay. There I am. Hi, Mari.
Hi, you look beautiful.
Oh,
so good to see you.
I really wanted to bring this subject up. I don't know if other people have had it or not. Well, I love ACOL, and we have a group going, and we meet every week and all of that. And like Mary says, when she defines the we, she said that we that each one's own realization then is thought, each one added to each other's knowing, forming a larger and clearer picture of what we were coming to know. Mm-hmm. And that's the value of a group like this, and it's the value of my Thursday morning group. But I want to say my experience, for the first time I read The Way of the Marys, it was all you and Mary. It was not me. And so, it was interesting from that point of view. And I thought you were honest and it was real but it was you. The second time, I'm almost finished. I just have a couple pages left. The second time, it's me. It's Mary and me talking. She's talking right to me, and you're there too, sort of in and out. But it's really a conversation to my heart. It was such a transformation between, feeling it was your experience with Mary and how wonderful and not lots of good insights. to realizing it's my experience with Mary. So thank you.
Yeah, it's that never for one alone thing, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like it's always one and more than one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace be with you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Paula.
Thank you so much. I think probably we will begin to wrap it up here. Mari, we want to say what a wonderful privilege it has been to have you with us today. I'm sure that everyone involved in our meeting today has been as blessed and touched as I have with just what you've shared, and Patricia's insight and connection with the whole perspectives have just totally lifted me. And also each of you who are participants, you have added greatly to it. So we want to thank you so much. So Patricia, thank you. And it's wonderful to have you back for your third time. You are obviously a very dear member of the Center family. So we are going to look forward to having you back again down the road. But in the meantime, we will definitely be keeping in touch, and hope for you the best as you move ahead with your new book. So please keep us posted, and we'll keep in touch and be together again soon.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for putting me in touch with Patricia.
Yeah,
that's been wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. All right, well, thank you. God bless, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
So we want to thank everyone who's joined us today. I know that some of you have been with us a long time. Others have just found the center, but each of you and being a part of it and what you do is what makes the center what it is. Remind you again, our next program coming up is with Patricia. In fact, in March 13th, she will have a workshop. It will be focused on embodying the awakened world, and she'll be exploring with us empowering role of embodiment and how that plays a part of the emergence of the new world. Now, that's a workshop on Saturday, March 13th, so you will need to register for that. So go to our website and you'll find a lot more information and a way to register for that. Also, remember our resources. We have a monthly spiritual sharing circle that you might enjoy. We have a weekly mindful meditation, all of which, even though we're apart due to the pandemic, there are more people who are able to plug in through Zoom, a conference call, or different ways. So please avail yourselves to that. And remember, since we can't put out a little collection basket, if you value what we've done and what we do, remember it's a member-supported organization, and so we can only do what we do with your support. So if you feel moved to drop something in the virtual collection basket or become a member, we hope you'll do that, and you can do that on our website. So I want to thank everyone again, whether you're joining us today live or many will watch this later through a recorded version. Each one of you are important to us, and you're part of our center family. So until next time, we'll say stay well, be love, and may God protect you and go with you until we meet again. Namaste.